I guess it makes sense for me to say buenos dias to
Buenos
everybody.
dias.
Buenos dias. It is 7:31 here Mountain Time. I am in the mountains of Guanajuato, Mexico, here in San Miguel de Allende. I have made my way from South by Southwest in Austin to then Mexico City, where John actually, one of the first things I did was to do my Milk and Penn GSE competition judging. I wrapped it up there. Um, and then made my way here to San Miguel de Allende. And you have gone from Austin to where?
Break my heart. What's the temperature there?
I mean, it's it's a little chilly. Um, it's 47 degrees going up to 80. That's what it looks like this week.
Wow. Yeah, it's 27 here in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, where my son is at school. We had a great college visit in Boston yesterday.
Nice.
He is a junior in high school, so we're touring schools and getting very excited about some of the his options and where he's looking to go to school. And it's just so awesome to see him have agency and do the research on the schools and the programs and the professors who he wants to potentially engage with as he goes through this college application process. But I would really, I could use some 80-degree weather right now, Josh, to be honest with
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to complain, okay?
you.
But I will just explain a little bit. What it's like here is it's 44 degrees now, and so I'm
Yep.
wearing t-shirt, sweater, jacket, and by the time it's 1 o'clock, it'll be in the mid 70s. It'll go up to 80, and then the sun will go down. It'll be down to 50 by the time you're having your third glass of wine. Um, and
Well, we
speaking
don't
of
we
food,
don't do wine anymore, as you know. We're into
right?
we're into dry. No longer are we into dry weeks. We're into dry quarters now.
Yeah,
We're dry quarter one.
I hear you. I've been here for a couple days now, and in Mexico City and in Austin, and I just had one mezcal last night. Um, yeah, it's just not for me anymore. But I did have, by the way, a wonderful lunch with uh, your friend, my friend Jeffrey Drayton, who's a
Yeah,
Philly guy, and he
yeah,
lives down here. And so we had a wonderful lunch at a Jewish deli here in San Miguel.
that's awesome.
Um, yeah, and
Where are you gonna watch March Madness?
the
Nah,
beach,
on
because
your
I'm
phone
headed
on
to
the beach.
Cabo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, John, we were going to talk today about more about kind of listening and the raise your hand campaign and some of the uh, mistakes, challenges that some of the folks that we work with, they're educators and product people. And so they have the solution for their perfect client. And their instinct is to kind of just tell that perfect client, a principal, a superintendent, the president of a university, how they can help them, as opposed to just asking questions and listening. Because when you ask questions and listen, you build trust. So instead of going into that, we're going to talk about South by Southwest EDU first and our meetup and
Okay.
how we saw trust, confidence in one another, uh, begin to form in Austin. So I was wondering if you would be willing to set the stage for our event after I give a preamble as to how this event got started. It's one of my favorite John Gamba stories, and I've got a few. Last year, maybe, I don't know, November, something like that, John and I are talking. He's like, hey, you want to go to South by Southwest EDU? And I'm like, well, heck yeah. By the way, like, I get to go with John. This will be cool. And he's like, great. Can you plan a meetup? I'm like, okay, yeah. What's a meetup? And he's like, I don't know. Plan one. So, you know, as I've learned from the man on the screen, you never let a crisis go to waste. So I reach out to a guy I know. His name is Pablo Gonzalez. I've known him for a while. And I say, Pablo, you seem like a meetup type guy. What's a meetup? And he explains to me what a meetup is. And he says, where's this all coming from? I said, John and I, he knew John, are planning a meetup at South by Southwest EDU in Austin. He said, I got your guy. He introduced us to Moby, who happens to be a phenomenal person, a great businessman who does meetups in Austin. We meet
How crazy
Moby.
was that?
Yeah, we meet Moby. We do maybe 15 minutes of planning, and we run a phenomenal meetup last year, and we ran it back this year. So, John, fill in any of those blanks and set the stage for what happened this year, please.
Yeah, so it was really great. We worked on facilitating ways to get startup venture founders to engage with each other in a meaningful way. This year, fast forward, was standing room only. We had a line outside the door, which is great. It's a testament, Josh, to your social media game and rallying support and getting people to, lean in on these types of events and opportunities. Moby did a fantastic job of counting people off and getting people who didn't know each other to be fully engaged in a spirit of assistance, listening, empathy, and it just went off without a hitch. I'd say that the highlight this year, last year was great. It was like our first run. This is the second run. It got better. Was the support from our volunteers. The
Mm-hmm.
South by Southwest Volunteer Corps were amazing, holding the door, helping to facilitate the meetup, making sure that people felt special and important, and helped with photos and logistics. And it was just, it softened the challenges that we had with regard to travel, because right now that's not a fun uh, dynamic that we're dealing with in the country. I think I had a 5 hour wait in the Austin airport, and I just kind of shut my eyes and went back to this picture of being uh, engaged with the crew and just having a really great time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that in the moment, one of my favorite parts was working with those volunteers. And um, yeah, I do my fair share of volunteering when I can. But if I had been a volunteer and I had been in their situation, and and somebody wanted to add a 61st, 62nd, 75th, 80th person to the room, I probably been like, go for it, guys. But they held their ground, and this other meetup formed outside, and people started doing that. And I think you're right. It does really speak to how much this group of people, especially founders who are getting going, want to be able to support each other in different ways. I know you were there and heard different people talking. One of the things that I love seeing, and I got a picture of it, was just people were like QR coding their LinkedIn profile to each other so they could just connect, and support each other. What was one of your, other than our tight security, what was one of your favorite moments?
One of my favorite moments was as we were setting up and we were creating the vibe and the dynamic and the coordination of the room and the flow. Um, one of the volunteers quietly came up to us and said, "We're going to move this table this way because it's not ADA compliant. And we're going to
Mm,
make room for people who learn, engage, um, communicate differently." And it wasn't a big deal. It was just culturally how that room was going to be set up to accommodate people who are different and people who have disabilities. And lo and behold, after that happened, because our eyes were raised and we're like, yeah, we need to do this. We had a room full of people, and I would say maybe 20 to 25% of the people that were in there are supporting underrepresented communities. And that
yeah,
was a big signal to me to remind me of the purpose of our work and the kind of uh, commitment we have to targeted universalism, which is a big theme within our big digital promise grant. And really what we're trying to do here, we're not trying to, focus specifically on ed tech and how are we going to make money and how are we going to build a business and how are we going to exit, but all means all. And what are we doing to facilitate teaching and learning and support for um, all learners and all teachers. And so that just really stood out and was a really uh, important God shot or reminder of kind of work we're doing.
Yeah, no, I think that reminder was really important. I also would say that um, while I do a lot of that social media hustling in the group, and we all, have our lanes, um, you and I and Moby are aligned on supporting each other, supporting other people. So the vibe, I believe, for next year has already started, and it continues, and we live it and breathe it every single day. And I'm gonna bring this back a bit to what we, kind of intended to talk about today, and we'll talk about it for a minute here, is just this idea of when you are reaching out to a potential client, whether you're having your first meeting, your second meeting, your third meeting, whether it's at South by Southwest CDU or ASU GSV or, wherever it is, the best thing to do is to ask questions. As John likes to say, be interested, not interesting. And that's what everybody did in that room. Yes, we kind of set the parameters of these questions, this amount of time, but you saw people leaning in, asking good questions, giving fist bumps, congratulations. And, I get to see that every so often. I see it, of course, in my cohorts. Those are the people I bring into my cohorts in my community. How often do you get to see that when you're on the campus of University of Pennsylvania?
We try to champion it through our programming, and I think you're right. Be interested, not interesting. Trying to build a sense of community, but also trying to think about this community building differently. If you remember, and this is a testament to Moby and our collective, one of the first questions we asked and we insisted on is to have the group not be in sort of sales mode. This is me, aren't I great? We asked, um, tell us about your hardships, what is humbling about your work, and where you may need help. The three H's. And I
Mhm,
think that set a really positive vibe and stage for people to say, while I am doing or I am advancing innovation and impact in education in this and that way, I'm really struggling with work-life balance. I'm really struggling with making payroll to pay my team. I'm really struggling with the policies that are being implemented at the federal level and knowing how and where I might be able to get support now versus 4 years ago when there was $190 billion of ESSER money appropriated. And boy, was that amazing to have 7 tables of 7 people talking about how they're struggling and have people nod and say, I hear you and I'm here for you and I can help you.
mhm.
And I think there was a lot of relationships that came out of that room built around help and support and empathy. And that's powerful.
Yeah. Again, although I don't know if you can hear the fireworks going off. There's some
Well, I
sa
heard I heard church bells, and the hair pricked up on my arms because I remember being there and how soothing and how calming those church bells are. So that's cool.
They are. They absolutely are. Um, I couldn't let us just breeze past that amazing event that still people who weren't there are reaching out to me saying that seems like it was a really wonderful event. You guys put a lot of work into it. And we really, really value the opportunity to do that event. But truth be told, it's three founders in John and Moby and myself. And we put a lot of thought into the event and a lot of love and energy, but we do not put a lot of planning. And I wrote that in one of my posts that think of us as a 3-person band who's going to play the music and vibe off of the people at the concert. And so we really rolled with what people wanted. If it felt like a question had kind of been answered by the group, like I went up to Moby, I'm like, let's move on. Moby grabs the mic and he's like, let's go. But if we also wanted to play a little longer, we did. And we've been able to parlay a lot of those relationships on my end, and I know you're a part of this, into the entourage. The entourage is the community that I got going 3 weeks ago. Well, really 4. It was 4 weeks ago. Started 4 weeks ago, and in the first week had 0 signups. Made a pivot, was humbled, was coached, and moved to school communities. And we now have over 170 people in the entourage. So the community building continues, and people can go to our website or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to welcome you into the entourage if you're a founder or a member of a team or a CEO of an education company. John, what are you continuing to do other than being yourself on the community building side?
It's a great question. I want to just lean in on some of the comments. One of the things you talked about how organic some of the programming was related to that meetup. We are planners, and we are pretty sophisticated in how we coordinate the operations of our respective businesses and organizations. A lot of it is built on discipline and planning, but sometimes organic is great. I was with a founder and a director of engineering of a venture I'm supporting in Boston last night. One is a singer, the other's a pretty accomplished guitar player, and I was watching them jam. And the guitar player has been playing for 15 years, and he's one of the best guitarists I've ever seen play. And the singer's pretty good. And as I was sitting there, one of my favorite artists is Childish Gambino. There was a poster behind the guitarist. And I said, hey, can you play Childish Gambino? And he said, I've never played it before. And he had played 4 or 5 songs that they've played together, and they were perfect. Mm-hmm. He threw down Childish Gambino, and it wasn't perfect. But at the end, the gut laughter of, that was the first time we tried that. And they were like, we love Childish Gambino, but we've never been asked, or we've never even tried to play it. They played it. It was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
There were some mistakes, but they enjoyed it so much. And I think that's important to kind of like, as we recognize the importance of planning and discipline, also recognize that there are some moments that can have some warts, and there's some moments that can have some mistakes, and there's some moments that can have some human. And it's important for planners like us to demonstrate to the people that we're supporting that it's okay to wing it sometimes, and it's okay to not have so much control all the time, and that the mistakes that come out of that can be learning experiences, as we've talked about in this forum. I just want to share that, but also to answer your question directly about the community and what I'm seeing. What I've really tried to build in terms of the communities that I manage is for it to not be so much a social media community with threaded discussions and sharing insights, but more a community of practice. What I've been sensing and seeing from a lot of the people that we interact with is I'm making connections, I'm making friends, I'm having fun, I'm feeling like I'm not alone, but I need specific, actionable insights that I can do this week, going into next week, to enhance my business. And with your coaching and your model, Josh, I see a lot of that. It's not just let's get to work. And if people aren't willing to do the work that you're coaching them on, they're, I don't want to say they're dismissed, but we don't have time for that and them. So it's not just a community of communication or a community of socializing. I think it's really important to think about community building through the lens of practice. And what are we going to do to really do something to improve our business measurably to get us from point A to point B? And that's what I'm trying to do with our Catapult platform, is to encourage this community of entrepreneurial practice, not just socializing or interacting.
That's really helpful. for me, thank you. As moving into a little bit of a different phase of the building of the community, in that I'm really proud of the 170 people. And I've made this joke before because I have to. I have to make jokes, I guess. It's not my mom or your mom who are members of this community. I mean, it's 170 people who, are really building companies in education. And I'm personally inviting people that I really want in there. And I get to think of it, yes, a little bit on the communication side, because I have 2 degrees in it. One is a master's in broadcast journalism, so I kind of feel like I'm running a little bit of a newspaper there, and that's
Yeah.
kind of fun. And I need to think now past, the getting people in, because that groundswell will continue. But also what content people want, what will be valuable to them. So that's helpful for me to hear from you, um, kind of how you're approaching it. So, I love the story about the music, and it reminds me, since I'm here in Mexico, of the many Wednesday nights that I would take our daughter Camila to skateboarding, and just watch her fall
Yeah.
over and over again. And the first thing they taught her when she learned to skateboard was how to fall. And we don't necessarily teach that per se to entrepreneurs, but we certainly are there to give them a hand when they get back up.
Yeah.
Um, Last topic here is that I also think it's important for people to know that we have coaches. I have a coach. His name is Andrew Croze, Kroeze, if you want to look him up. And I am going to my first ever true coaching mastermind. 60 coaches are going to be in Cabo. I'm flying there this afternoon. It's a domestic flight. And, you know, I'm uh, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it, to hopefully be able to help some people if I can, but to learn from the people around me who have been able to make it further than I have. What do you do in terms of your coaching? I know you're a heck of a reader, but do you currently have a coach? I'm truly asking that question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I continue to draw on the wisdom and will for as long as he's with us, of my father, who
Yeah.
is an important coach, an advisor to me, both in business and in life. I also draw on a lot of insight and wisdom from our vice dean, Michael Golden, who is our fearless leader at Catalyst at Penn GSE, who provides a lot of wisdom and insight to the work that we're doing. And it's a collective, it's a common mission and vision to advance impact and innovation in worldwide education. Um, but as I'm presented with this question of like, what makes a good coach? And I think you remember me speaking at ERDI about the impact that advisors and coaches have had on me.
Hmm.
And what I think, how I would measure myself as a coach to others, because I do a lot of coaching and advising. And I think it's built on 3 pillars. And I'd be interested in knowing how this comes out in Cabo with the deep bench of coaches that will be there. And that is, I think the first thing that a good mentor or a good coach provides, and has been provided to me, is expertise and experience. um, Whether it's micro uh, advice in an area of venture development that needs support, finance or product development or marketing, or macro advice on venture development. How are you building a venture from zero and an MVP to a commercially viable product that has scale and could potentially exit? So expertise and experience. And I think the experience has to also be built not only around, oh, my dad was successful,
Hmm.
or the coach has been successful and therefore you should listen to him. But I think it's also, how did the coach make it through adversity and make it through, and how are they resilient? And how can you engage with a coach who, you know, is humble about not always being perfect? I mean, entrepreneurship is a business of failure, right? we fail much more than we succeed, but we have to fail fast and fail smart. Second area that I would say that I'd look for in a coach, or I get from a great advisor or mentor, is that they're an active listener. I think that's really important. We talked about interested, not interesting. We talked about how does your coach sit down with you and say, well, Josh, you're really doing well in this area. Where do you need specifically the most support? And then the coach sits back and listens. Well, I'm struggling with fundraising, or I'm struggling with my go-to-market strategy, or I'm struggling with what you were calling, the definition of your TAM, SAM, SOM, and what the actual market is for this product or service. So being an active listener, I think, is really important. And then third, probably most importantly, is showing empathy and compassion. Um, you know, I hate to do it because it's going to upset you, Josh, but Bryce Harper comes to mind, right? Had an awful WBC, right? He had a terrible, terrible, and he comes up as almost the last batter and almost won the entire tournament with one swing of the bat. Um, there were a lot of people around him who said, hey, man, we know you're good. Hang in there. You can do this. And being able to coach somebody through difficulty and hardship and helping them understand that it's a day at a time, and showing compassion and showing empathy for the struggles that an entrepreneur typically goes through, I think is critically important. So expertise and experience, active listening, and showing compassion and empathy, I think, are really critical. And what's been bestowed on me on a lot of mentors that I've had the honor of being coached by. So just
Mhm.
some tidbits that I'd share in terms of, and I'd love to hear your perspective on that and what you get in Cabo.
Yeah. Oh, I will bring it back, of course, and I'll be texting you all throughout. I will give Bryce Harper credit in two different ways. One of them, the guy still hits the ball a mile, and it is glorious to watch him hit the ball. Um, and I saw a really wonderful video of him after the game congratulating the Venezuelan players. And I'm not sure if other players did that, but given that he is one of the biggest names in the game, for him to go out and do that, I respect that. And so, you know, uh, it's tough for me on the Bryce Harper front, but that's a whole nother story. I will um, head to Cabo from here, and I will bring back what I can learn. One of the things that I think is really important as we close here is, maybe this is, me, the journalist. I want to tie everything up here. The title of this is "Miss the Signals, Lose the Deal: What Happens When You Don't Ask and Align." And what happens when you don't ask and align is you can't learn. And there's so many opportunities to learn. And the opportunities to learn are um, listening to your perfect client, listening to somebody else who is building, and and to a point you made to me, and I think we made this out loud, listening to each other. One of the really cool things about this conversation you and I have is it is absolutely very friggin' real.
Yeah.
I'm listening to John say what he's saying, and I'm not, ready to ask the next question. I'm taking this all in, and I hope that goes both ways. So if we all just keep listening to each other, we'll be better people, and certainly our businesses will benefit from that as well. Anything you want
That's
to add?
Yeah, it's mutual, it's reciprocal, and I do think this is real, and I do think it's important, to close the loop. I thought a lot about when you don't ask and align. That and align can kind of fall off that sentence, but it shouldn't. We talk a lot about inquiry mindset, asking questions, really. But some of the best founders that I'm seeing who are closing deals right now not only ask, but they align. So they ask, they listen, but then they say, this is what I just heard. Did I hear that right? And
Mm-hmm.
if I can deliver on that need, that pain point, that bullet point in your strategic plan, superintendent or provost of a higher ed institution, will I be on track and being able to address and fulfill your needs? If you just ask and you're just like, I was inquiry minded, but you don't then close the loop to align on what was said back and be able to connect that to the solution that you're providing, be able to deliver it and then measure it with impact and with an actual measurable outcome, I think we lose it. So ask and align. I think that's really, really powerful and critically important. I think the alignment might be even more important than just asking.
I'll close with this just to show that we certainly are listening, and Alvin, who's our producer, is listening. I don't know the count, but Alvin has rewritten the EdSales Elevation Experience, and we've rolled it out. I would say that probably the two words that are used the most are alignment and safety. Alignment and safety. Alignment because we want to align with people, and then we want the perfect client to feel safe to ask more questions and to be a good partner and to join you along the ride. So thank you guys and for joining us along this ride. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and John's generally in Pennsylvania, but we are often on the road, so things look different, but the goal of the show is always the same. And whether we are in Austin or in Massachusetts or in Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia or the mountains of Mexico, we're trying to help and build community. And so hopefully that comes through. We are going to move the show over to the school community. John, you're more than welcome to join if you have the time. It's 10 o'clock there, so you might have to run. I get that. I'll carry us forward, but we're going to move this over into the community. If you are not a member of the entourage, you can quickly join, and we'll let you in, and we'll move over there. So, John, if you can join, do. If not, it's all good.
Definitely. All good. Safe travels, Josh. If I don't see you in a moment, I'm going to jump on another Zoom that I'm late for, but I'll see everybody soon.
Hasta luego. Thank you, guys.
Hasta luego. Bye.